Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. So in this one, we're going to be talking about Google Stadia because it's like the cloud gaming service we just never talk about. Now, we've been using Google Stadia for about a month now, and we've had an absolute blast using the service, and we've got a few thoughts about it. So we're going to cover those off in this video. So let's just get cracking, shall we? So for those of you who aren't too sure what Google Stadia is, it's basically Google's cloud gaming service, and it runs on a whole variety of different devices. Unlike competing services, it offers much better streaming resolution as well, and what we saw from it so far has been really impressive. Now let's start off with some of the really good points that we found about Google Stadia. Now, the first one is that it runs on multiple platforms, so you can use it on your iPhone, you can use it on your iPad, you can use it in a Chrome browser, you can use it on an Android TV. It can basically run on anything that can connect to the internet, so it's a really impressive platform. Unlike things like Microsoft xCloud, which is currently in beta for iOS and iPadOS, with Google Stadia, you can use it straight away just by going on Safari and going over to the Google Stadia website. Like pretty much every cloud gaming service, it is running as a web app, but it runs extremely well. Now, when we booted this up and started playing it, we were really impressed with the streaming quality of this. Now, that's not to knock any of the other cloud gaming services. We've had a great time with NVIDIA GeForce Now, and that absolutely stands out as a really good go-to cloud gaming platform. But compared to something like Microsoft xCloud, which is quite choppy and doesn't offer the best streaming experience, Google Stadia nails it completely. We played through Resident Evil 7 on this thing, and it just felt like I was playing the game on the device. Everything played incredibly smoothly. There was no input lag and there was no latency or anything like that. I didn't have any dropped frames, I didn't get disconnected from the session, and that was all using my iPhone over Wi-Fi. So the stream quality is crazy impressive, and Google have done some kind of magic wizardry with this thing, and I'm very impressed. Now, one of the other really good things about Google Stadia is the way that they offer the product. So there is a premium tier and there is a pay-as-you-go tier. Now, with the premium tier, you do get access to a free trial, and that will give you up to 4K streaming quality. It also gives you access to a library of premium games as well. So, for example, when we signed up for it, Resident Evil 7 was available to claim, and Jedi Fallen Order is now available on there as well. So there's all sorts of different games that are pretty high-end that you can get as part of that subscription. However, if you don't want to go down the subscription route, you also have access to the Google Stadia Store, which basically is like a traditional console experience. You find the game that you want to play, you buy it, and then you have access to stream that to the platform without paying for a monthly fee. Now, personally, I think that's a really good way to do it, so that way when you buy your game, you can just stream it whenever. You're not feeling tied into a contract, and you don't have to pay monthly to get access to those games you've already purchased. So I really like that setup and how they're doing it. Unlike something like NVIDIA GeForce Now, which can be a little bit finicky to find those games because you have to go into something like Steam or Epic Games Store, with Google Stadia, it's all just built into that one platform. So you find the game, you buy it, and then you can stream it. If you want to be able to stream in better resolution, then you can pay the premium and get access to the library of games. But to be fair, streaming in 1080 on my iPhone or my iPad looked absolutely amazing, and I don't really necessarily see the need in buying extra. So moving on to the bad, and to be fair, there's not a massive amount to complain about when it comes to Google Stadia. Now personally, I expected a lot worse from the platform just because you always hear these horror stories, but at the moment Google have absolutely nailed their infrastructure. This thing runs incredibly well. However, there are definitely a few points that irked me, and the first one is the price of the games. If you're going into this to look at buying those games, they're all probably the most expensive I've ever seen any of these games for. Even older titles were still selling for their original full price, and to me that would just put me off. I guess it's one of those things to be expected, and I suppose it's one of those things that developers absolutely are gunning for, is to have all of their games on one platform where they don't really see a sale or a markdown, but those prices are really off-putting. And ultimately that brings us on to the next poor point, and it's not necessarily anything that Google have done, but if you're buying a game, and if you're especially buying a game at a premium, and then Google Stadia for whatever reason closes down, what happens to the license you have for that game? With something like NVIDIA GeForce Now, if you buy a game on Steam, you then have access to play it on NVIDIA GeForce Now and stream it, obviously if the developer supports it. However, if NVIDIA closed down their cloud gaming service for whatever reason, you'd still have access to that game to play it on a PC, so you don't necessarily lose out in that respect. When you're paying a premium with Google Stadia, and if it closed down in the future, I'd be a little bit worried about what's going to happen to my library of games, and it certainly would put me off. Which brings us on to the final point, and I suppose that's just the value proposition. Although it offers by far the best streaming experience that we've used so far when it comes to cloud gaming, it didn't offer the best value, at least in our opinion. With NVIDIA GeForce Now, their prices have gone up, so they're less value-led, However, you get access to pretty much any of the games you've already purchased, provided the developer supports it. With something like Microsoft xCloud, even though it's not supported on as many devices at the moment, you get access to an absolutely massive library of games, and a lot of those are day one releases as well. So the value proposition of something like xCloud absolutely trumps Google Stadia. It would be nice to see them expand some of the premium games that you get access to if you do subscribe, and it would be definitely nice to see them lower the prices of some of the games that you can buy on the platform, because then it would certainly give you a lot more choice. However, that's a relatively small list of bad points, and to be fair, they can be changed extremely easily depending on what Google do with the platform going forward. They've already nailed the infrastructure, which is one of the most important things, and it runs so incredibly well. So to sum up, it's absolutely one of our favorite ways to use cloud gaming, and it blows something like xCloud out of the water when it comes to quality. If you've got no other way to play games, you want to be able to play them on your mobile devices as well as something like a desktop, and you haven't already invested in a large Steam library or an Epic Games Store library, then Google Stadia might be the way to go for you. It's supported on so many different devices. The cloud gaming experience is absolutely one of the best ways to experience cloud gaming at the moment, at least from our experience and what we saw. So it's certainly worthwhile trying out. Obviously, it has a free trial, so give it a go for a month, see how it works with your setup and your hardware, and then go from there. If the games library does seem a bit expensive for you, then try out a different service. But if it's something that you're willing to pay the extra premium for the ability to play on your mobile phone, your desktop devices, your iPad, your big screen, then you know what, sometimes it's just worth paying the premium for. Fingers crossed Google Stadia keeps on going strong and it starts to evolve as well. There's been a lot of horror stories going off in the background, and we do have our doubts, but hopefully they are all misplaced and Google Stadia is just going to go from strength to strength to strength, because that infrastructure and that streaming quality is absolutely spot on. So as always, if you've got any questions, throw them down in the comments below, and we hope you've enjoyed that video. In the meantime, hit the subscribe button because it helps the channel to grow, and we'll be back in the future with some more awesome content. Bye!